I'm living with James now. I've already drained our retirement accounts. My name is Ethan Marlowe, 46, sitting at my kitchen counter in Boise, staring at my phone as my wife of 18 years beams on screen. She turns the camera, showing off a diamond bracelet that had to cost thousands. Behind her, a luxury hotel suite, definitely not her sister's modest Portland apartment where she claimed to be staying. "Don't worry," she said, champagne glass tipping in her hand. "You'll bounce back." I did. I set the phone down and took in our house, the sleek furniture Renee insisted we buy 2 years ago, vacation photos where she always looked distracted, the expensive kitchen renovation she never stopped criticizing. I'd spent nearly 20 years building a life with someone who could film herself laughing while casually dismantling that same life. It didn't feel like a shock, more like the confirmation of something I'd sensed but refused to acknowledge. As an IT systems consultant, I've built a career on detecting anomalies, tiny inconsistencies that point to bigger problems. And for months, I'd been noticing them at home. Weekend trips that got mysteriously extended, charges from restaurants in unfamiliar neighborhoods, cryptic texts that lit up her face in ways I hadn't seen in years. I picked up the phone again and watched the end of the video, her flawless smile, her meticulously styled hair, the unmistakable confidence of someone who believed she'd won. Marriage was always a game to Renee. I just hadn't realized the stakes. Not until now. I typed a short reply. Wise decision. She wouldn't get it, not yet. But she would. I walked to my home office and opened the bottom drawer. Inside, a folder packed with bank statements, investment files, and legal documents. Months of quiet preparation for exactly this scenario. Renee never cared for financial details. She signed whatever I gave her, never looking past the bottom line. That blind trust was about to cost her more than she ever imagined. I met Renee when we were both 28. She was in pharma sales, all charm and shine. I handled IT infrastructure at a regional bank. We married 6 months after our first date. She used to say we balanced each other out. You plan, I live. And for a while, it worked. I built our financial future brick by brick, maxed out retirement plans, bought our home at the market's low, picked growth stocks that soared. I tracked every expense. Renee brought spontaneity, weekend getaways, dinner parties, social events that often turned into consulting gigs for me. Then came the first crack. 5 years ago, I found a $3,000 charge from a jewelry store. It wasn't near any special occasion. "It's for my mom," she said. I nodded. But her mother showed up 3 months later. No new jewelry. After that came late work nights, new wardrobes, the personal trainer texting past midnight, and those girls' weekends that left her quieter, colder. I didn't confront her. I just began to prepare. When I landed a major contract with Cloud IT 3 years ago, I created a separate LC. For liability, yes, but also as a shield. I restructured our finances. On paper, it looked like we had one main retirement account, jointly held. But in reality, I had shifted 70% of our assets into business-linked accounts. She'd signed off without hesitation. She never looked at statements. 8 months ago, I spotted odd withdrawals from our joint checking account, small at first, then larger. Renee brushed it off. Online shopping, she said. You're always working. It helps me cope. Last month, she started asking about our retirement funds. How much we had, how fast we could access them, whether I'd updated beneficiaries. Just thinking ahead, she said. That night, I saw her scrolling through her phone, grinning at something I couldn't see. That same bracelet, the one I didn't buy, sparkled on her wrist. The clues were always there. I just hadn't wanted to connect them. So I moved more assets, gathered more paperwork, waited. After watching her video again, I sat in my office, unexpectedly calm. 18 years, reduced to 40 seconds of hollow laughter from someone I didn't recognize anymore. I called our bank. Mr. Marlowe, we were just about to contact you, the fraud rep said. There's suspicious activity on your joint retirement account. I know, I replied. My wife tried to liquidate it without my consent. I didn't approve that transaction. The tone shifted. In that case, we'll file a fraud report. I can freeze the account immediately. Please do. With that call, the end of my marriage became official, not the betrayal itself, but my response to it. I opened a divorce filing I'd started months ago. Just placeholders back then. Now I had dates, evidence, and clarity. I made the updates and saved the file for my lawyer. Then my phone buzzed, Renee again. Did you get my message? I didn't reply. The freeze would lock within hours. The fraud report would follow, and Renee would discover the flaw in her exit plan. I walked through the house that night, really seeing it, how little of me remained. Furniture I didn't choose. Art that meant nothing to me. A kitchen I barely used because Renee always preferred eating out. Nearly 2 decades spent building a life around someone already planning her escape. Every unexplained expense, every silent weekend, every late night, they were all steps toward James, whoever he was. In our bedroom, I opened her closet. A few designer pieces were gone. Her favorites. She'd been quietly moving them out for weeks. Or maybe I'd noticed and refused to believe it. I slept in the guest room on sheets untouched by her perfume. When I woke, I felt weightless. Over coffee, I emailed the finalized divorce papers to my attorney with a note. Urgent. Then I called Jack, a forensic accountant I'd once partnered with on a corporate fraud case. I need to trace some financial activity, I told him. And I need it ready for court. No anger. No sadness. Just focus. Renee had made her choice. Now it was time for mine. 3 days after her video, my phone lit up. Dozens of texts, voicemails, emails, all from. They all came with growing urgency. What's happening with our account? Why can't I access the funds? The bank is saying something about fraud? I let the messages stack up without replying. My lawyer had advised strict minimal contact, and I was following that advice to the letter. Everything had to be clean, documented, and by the book. On the 4th morning, the doorbell rang at 7 a.m. I opened the door to find Renee on the porch, looking like a ghost of her former self. Her perfectly curated image was cracking, makeup smudged, hair unkempt, wearing clothes that hadn't been ironed. What did you do? She snapped. brushing past me into the house like she still owned the place. I stayed calm. I reported unauthorized access to our retirement accounts. The bank froze the funds pending investigation. Unauthorized? She scoffed, but her voice lacked conviction. I'm your wife. I have every right. The account requires dual authorization for withdrawals over 10 grand, I said. You forged my signature. That's fraud, Renee. Her face changed in an instant, from outrage to calculation. You can't prove that. The bank has the paperwork, I said. And I have your video where you pretty clearly explain your intentions. She pivoted immediately, stepping closer, voice soft. Ethan, this is just a misunderstanding. I was upset. I wasn't thinking straight. I backed away. You were clear enough to plan ahead. Clear enough to move clothes out over time. Clear enough to fake my signature. We can fix this, she pleaded, reaching for my arm. Whatever you think happened with James. I filed for divorce, I said flatly. The papers will be served today. From now on, all communication goes through our attorneys. The mask slipped entirely. You'd be nothing without me, she spat. I built your social life, made you look like more than some boring IT guy. I almost laughed. It was textbook anger, then blame. And yet, I still managed to protect our money from you, I said. Imagine that. Her eyes narrowed. There was over 800 grand in that account. It had 180, I corrected. The rest is frozen. The withdrawal is under criminal review. Her expression twitched. Our portfolio was worth over $1 million. Now, I did smile. You never really listened when we discussed finances, did you? She stormed to the kitchen, fumbling with her phone, tapping furiously into banking apps. Her eyes scanned, hands shaking. Where is it? She barked. Where's the rest of our money? In accounts tied to my LLC, I said. You signed the paperwork, but never monitored anything. You can't access those without me. The look she gave me was pure venom. You planned this, she whispered. I shook my head. I protected us from liability during a major contract. That you turned it into a shield against your own theft? Well, what did you call it? A wise decision. Her phone flew at the wall. It bounced and clattered to the floor. You think you've won? James has money. He has pull. Then congrats, I said evenly. You've landed on your feet. Just without the funds you tried to steal, and maybe with a felony charge instead. She stayed another hour, yelling, threatening, even trying to get into my laptop. I changed the locks that afternoon. The next 2 weeks were a study in panic. Renee tried every tactic: anger, tears, seduction, legal pressure. Her attorney, a slick-talking guy in a designer suit, sent threats about hidden marital assets and alleged misconduct. I forwarded everything to my lawyer without comment. Meanwhile, Jack, the forensic accountant, was uncovering the full scope of Renee's deception. She's been diverting funds for nearly a year, Jack said when we met at his downtown office. He slid a folder across the desk. Started small, then got bolder. Always under the alert threshold. I opened the file. There it was, itemized spreadsheets, withdrawal logs, transfer records. She moved roughly $87,000, Jack said. Designer clothes, jewelry, fine dining. I nodded, oddly numb. But here's where it gets interesting, he added, pointing to a section. About 20 grand went here. He showed me a series of transfers to an unfamiliar bank. The account belongs to James Whitaker, age 41, regional manager at Voxen Audio. Known history of romantic entanglements with wealthy married women. I stared at the name. You found all this? Jack's smile was razor thin. I'm good at what I do. And Whitaker's not discreet. This isn't his first rodeo. Something twisted in my gut. This wasn't just betrayal. It was predatory. Look at the timing, Jack said, flipping a page. The transfers to Whitaker started 3 months after he was hired at Voxen. That's when your wife's pharmaceutical territory expanded into accounts affiliated with Voxen's new medical tech. I remembered Renee gushing about the new client, the late-night meetings, the extra travel. There's more, Jack said. He's done this twice before, both with sales reps from companies his employer partnered with. Both times, large personal transfers, followed by messy breakups. I leaned back, the pieces falling together. This wasn't just an affair. It was a pattern, a playbook. Does Renee know? I asked. Jack shrugged. Hard to say. She might think it's love, or she might be complicit. Either way, she's been funneling money to him for months. I thought about her laughing in that video. The bracelet, the designer bags, the audacity of it all. She knows, I said. Maybe not everything, but enough. As I prepared to leave, one more question lingered. The account liquidation? Was it his idea? Jack nodded. Most likely. The forgery was clean, professional. And the timing? Right before a holiday weekend. Classic stall tactic to delay detection. I thanked him and took the folder. Driving home, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just about protecting what I'd built. It was about exposing a predator. And maybe, though I hadn't let myself admit it, it was about saving Renee from herself. With Jack's evidence in hand, I met with my attorney, Daniel Green. His office had sweeping views of downtown Boise, but I barely noticed. This changes things, Daniel said, reviewing the documents. Significantly. Financial misconduct, possible conspiracy, definitely fraud. I nodded as Daniel reviewed the spreadsheets Jack had compiled, his sharp eyes scanning each figure with quiet intensity. We have 3 options, he said. First, we proceed with the divorce as planned and use this evidence to ensure a favorable division of assets. Second, we file criminal charges against both your wife and Mr. Whitaker. Or third, he looked up, meeting my gaze. We use this as leverage. Leverage for what? To get everything you want in the settlement, Daniel replied, and potentially recover the funds she transferred. I sat with that, turning it over in my mind. What about the other women? I asked. The ones he's done this to before. Daniel raised an eyebrow. You're concerned about them? If he's done it before, he'll do it again. The pattern matters. He leaned back. We could reach out to their attorneys, share what we found, build a stronger case. I made my decision. Start with the leverage. Be ready to file criminal charges if needed. And yes, connect with the other attorneys. Within days, we had a coordinated approach. 2 of Whitaker's former victims agreed to collaborate, sharing their financial records and testimony. The pattern was crystal clear: charm, access, manipulation, withdrawal. Meanwhile, I initiated the next phase of my plan. With Jack's full documentation in hand, I contacted our bank's fraud department. They escalated the case immediately and expanded their investigation to include Whitaker. Next, I sent an anonymous tip to Voxen Audio's compliance division. Just enough detail to make them look in the right direction. A whisper of impropriety in regional management. Then I waited, not passively, but strategically. I monitored our accounts, logged every message from Renee, removed personal items from the house, and locked away anything of value. I changed every password, every lock. 7 days after our strategy meeting, Renee's tone shifted. Her text softened from accusatory to anxious. We need to talk. It's important. Please call me back. I think I made a terrible mistake. There are things about James you should know. I didn't respond. I forwarded them to Daniel. 2 days later, she appeared outside my office as I was leaving work. She looked smaller. Eyes ringed with fatigue, hair dull, posture slumped. He's not who I thought he was, she said, falling into step beside me. James has been lying. About everything. I kept walking. That seems to be going around. I'm serious, Ethan, she insisted. He's done this before. Used women. For money. I found out from an ex of his. I stopped, turned to face her. I know, I said. So does Daniel. So does the bank. So does his company's compliance team. Her face went pale. You knew? I hired a forensic accountant. He tracked every dollar you sent him, $87,000, in case you lost count. We've connected the dots. You're not the first. And now you're part of the pattern. She swayed slightly, as if the truth had physical weight. I didn't know. Ethan, I didn't. You don't get to plead ignorance anymore, Renee. That's the one luxury you've burned through. I walked away, leaving her standing in the plaza as the last light of day stretched long shadows across the pavement. The hearing was set for 10 a.m. on a crisp Tuesday morning. Daniel had prepped me thoroughly, but nothing could prepare me for the sight of Renee and Whitaker sitting side by side at the respondent's table. She looked worn down. He looked irritated. Despite everything, despite the evidence, despite the investigation, they'd arrived together. I couldn't decide if it was loyalty, denial, or one final manipulation. Our case was called. The judge, a woman with silver-rimmed glasses and the calm gravity of someone used to chaos, began reviewing the file with slow, deliberate care. Before we proceed, she said, I understand the plaintiff has submitted additional documentation concerning financial misconduct? Daniel stood. Yes, Your Honor. We've uncovered systematic fraud, including forged withdrawal authorizations and significant asset transfers to a third party. He laid it out. The bank statements, the forgery, the video of Renee admitting to emptying our retirement account, the trail of transfers to Whitaker's account. And finally, testimonies from 2 other women, each telling the same story with different names and dates. I watched Whitaker's expression shift from smugness to calculation, then to a flicker of panic. "Mr. Whitaker," the judge said, leaning forward, "this court has reason to believe you've engaged in a recurring pattern of financial exploitation. While that's not the primary matter before me, I'm referring this file to the district attorney's office for further review." Beside him, Renee made a soft, stunned sound. Not quite a gasp, more like hope deflating. The judge continued, "Given the substantial evidence of financial misconduct, I am freezing all disputed marital assets pending further resolution. Mrs. Marlowe, I'll remind you this court takes a very dim view of attempts to conceal or misappropriate property during divorce proceedings. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of my new condo downtown, watching the golden sun drift behind Boise's skyline. The divorce was finalized. The financial issues resolved. In the end, Renee had flipped. Whether out of self-preservation or guilt, I never asked. Her cooperation strengthened the DA's case against Whitaker, and in exchange, the charges against her were reduced. She avoided jail time, but would be paying restitution for years. Last I heard, she'd moved back to Oregon, a modest job in a smaller company. Whitaker hadn't been so lucky. With multiple victims testifying and Renee's evidence in the file, he was facing real time for fraud, financial abuse, and conspiracy. I recovered most of what mattered. Not everything, some things, once broken, stay broken. But enough. Enough to rebuild. My consulting firm had actually grown during the ordeal. Ironically, crisis tends to sharpen your priorities. My phone buzzed. A text from Andrea, a project manager I'd been seeing. "Still on for dinner?" "Looking forward to it," I replied. I walked inside to change, passing a single photo I'd kept from my marriage, Renee and I, laughing on our honeymoon. I didn't keep it out of nostalgia. Not out of pain either. It was just a reminder. Trust should never be given completely, only earned again and again. The retirement accounts were mine now. Passwords secured. Paperwork in order. Lesson learned. Balance restored.